Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now after last video, which was all about the monetization journey and how much I've made in the first month, it is time we got back stuck into some Pokemon investing. So I've done a quick video, 15 tips for Pokemon investing. We're going to reel through them as quick as we can. And I suppose what sprung about the inspiration for this video was, and thumbs up if you've been playing it, but I've been playing a heap of the new Zelda game. What is it? Tears of the Kingdom, the new Nintendo Switch game. Man, that's a good game. And I try my best not to cheat or get tips and tricks, but it's actually a damn hard game. And some of the best videos I like watching are like 15 hacks that you didn't know about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, or 12 hacks, or 18 hacks you didn't know, or tips and tricks that you didn't know. So that's what today's video, I suppose, inspiration come from. And before we get into tip number one, just quickly, has anyone noticed how bad the wrapping is on some of their booster boxes? Like, I picked up 2 booster boxes. I literally arrived the same day from the same seller, and I'm certainly not blaming the seller. It's the obviously Pokemon company that's wrapped it. So I got an Astral Radiance booster box, right, and a Lost Origin, so 2. The Astral Radiance is awesome. One of the, the wrapping's tight, everything looks good, the box itself looks mint as, can't complain about it one little iota. And then you check out the Lost Origin booster box, particularly this side. I mean, look at the wrapping there. That's just not as bad on the other side, but it's still not as good as the Astral Radiance booster box. I don't know, I don't think it's ever going to have an impact on the price of them. It's just funny, surely wrapping a box shouldn't be all that difficult to get right. But I've seen some doozies straight from the factory, straight out of cases that are just, way off with the wrapping. But anyway, let's get stuck into it. That's my little gripe for the day. Tip number one. Don't be in it for the short term. Now, this might have rung true 2020, 2021, when COVID hit and supply was difficult and people were scalping. And I saw this stat the other day that said, since 2020, the average lifespan, lifespan might not be the best word, but you get what I mean. The average lifespan for someone in the Pokemon hobby is 6 to 9 months. As in, they're entering the hobby, and then 6 to 9 months later, they're leaving the hobby. Now, that could be for a few reasons. One, maybe it's just they've got that nostalgia hit back because something's reminded them, something's got them back into the hobby. They hang around for 6 to 9 months just to enjoy it, open some packs. Maybe they've got a kid that's into it. The other side of it could be that maybe someone's still thinking that there's quick money in the hobby and they buy a booster box, and 6 to 9 months later, it either hasn't moved or it's only gone up, sort of $20 US or $15 US, and by the time they sell it and cop maybe some fees and postage costs, they break even and they think there's no point, there's no money in this hobby. My point is, tip number one, don't be in it for the short term. And that leaves us very closely into tip number 2. So tip number 2 is stay for the long game. If I think back to every single either Pokemon card product or Dragon Ball Z cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I've opened in the past, I tell you what, it was fun. It was a heap of fun, but I wish I'd kept them sealed. If I'd kept them sealed, they would have been worth heaps. Back in the day, the local Target and Kmart in particular here in Australia used to be able to get the 3-pack blisters for things like Crystal Guardians, Holland Phantoms, like that whole EX series. I used to duck in there and they were on special for $14.99 Australian, which is like, what, $9 US for a 3-pack blister with a promo. And I know we're going back a long time. My point is, yes, I enjoyed opening them, but man, if I'd kept them sealed and played the long game, they would have just been worth an absolute fortune. So what's the saying? Diamond hands. If you can hang around for the long game, it's going to be extremely, extremely beneficial financially. Number 3, if you can avoid it, don't buy loose booster packs. And particularly from Wizards of the Coast era. Most people in the hobby would know, but Wizards of the Coast era booster boxes can be weighed. And that is something that severely affects its value, because chances are if you buy a loose Wizards of the Coast booster pack, it's probably going to be weighed, which means it's very, very likely to be a light pack and not have much of a chance. You can still pull holos from light packs, but not much of a chance of pulling a holo. Every chance that you'll just get a standard rare, and that's a bit of a stitch up, because you're still paying a huge premium. You could be paying, say, $300 US for a jungle booster pack and pull $15 worth of value out of it because you don't pull a holo. So, it's a bit of a stitch up, and it also makes people a little bit more skeptical when they go to buy it. So if you go to resell it, there's a bit of skepticism around it. And unfortunately, although, modern's quite tricky to, some people claim you can, some people claim you can't. There's little tricks around it. Most people, the general consensus is it's a heap harder, but there's still that hangover with modern that, a single booster, not inside some sort of casing, is still not worth as much as a blister, which brings us strongly into point number 4. Buy blisters, check lanes, or 3-pack blisters where you can. Full well, or it's extremely, extremely unlikely or almost impossible that they've been tampered with, particularly the 3-pack blisters and the check lanes, because you've pretty much got to tear the plastic off the side of it. It rips the cardboard. Just next to impossible. Maybe a blister pack, but I don't think people are spending their time or wasting their time doing that. It's a bit hard and difficult. It's probably pretty easy to tell as well. So where you can, buy blisters, check lanes, and 3-pack blisters. You're going to sort of pick up a premium in those products. Also, it's a great price point into the hobby. I've said that on this channel several times. Times are tough at the moment. Mortgages are going up. Interest rates are going up, hopefully remaining still for a little bit of time. And, it just gives a better entry point into the hobby for everyone. Number five, don't FOMO on singles straight up when a set gets launched. And case in point is this one, the Charizard from Obsidian Flames. I think it's currently going still for maybe sitting on around $96 US. Don't FOMO on this. Don't go out and buy it straight away, because I can tell you when a set first comes out, that's when singles will be at an absolute premium. Over time, you will see their prices drop. And that brings us very quickly onto point number 6, which is buy singles as more product is open. So obviously over time, more and more product gets opened, and therefore the singles become more supply of the singles comes onto the market, and therefore prices will dip. Also, graded prices, like a lot of people were buying a PSA 10 of this Charizard from Obsidian Flames, it's the dearest it's going to be for a long, long time. It's probably going to start way up here. It's going to dip down over time. Maybe it'll level out at some stage. Maybe in the future, it'll start rising back up again. I don't know. I reckon this Obsidian Flames Charizard is going to be absolutely graded into the ground. And given its pull rates, there's going to be plenty of supply, plenty of stock coming into the market. And point is, wait for singles, 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 12 months. Look at the Lugia from Silver Tempest. That thing's still dipping. So 12 months after launch might even be the best time to pick up singles, if you can do with not having them straight away. That's the whole FOMO thing. Don't FOMO, because you'll end up spending money on FOMOing. Number seven, if it's clearly a one-off, make sure you pre-order. So things like Pokemon Center ETBs, things like when we had the Celebrations Ultra Premium Collection, and geez, that was hard. That was a stitch up. I remember we got this second wave of allocation down here in Australia for UPCs for Celebrations. EB Games was selling them online for 250 Australian dollars, which is what at the time maybe, what's that work out to be? Probably 160 US dollars. And this wasn't very long ago, mind you. This was only probably 9 months ago, and you just couldn't get them. It's just, I don't know, bots or whatever was happening was just buying them up, and as soon as you go to click to buy one, it was just you out of time, out of luck. A bit like Taylor Swift concert tickets down here. But my point is, if something's premium and Pokemon have made it clear that it's going to be a limited edition, you've got to pre-order it. That's the exception to the rule of not FOMOing, so to speak. Number 8, and this continues along the path of not FOMOing, don't buy booster boxes 2 weeks after launch. Sometimes it's not too bad putting in a pre-order because a lot of places have cheap pre-orders because the new product's coming out. They want to try and fill up some of that allocation that they're getting to make sure they're selling stock that's coming in. So quite often you can get a good deal like on a pre-order. But if you're buying something literally the week of launch or second week of launch, you're going to be paying a bit of a premium to get your hands on it and open it and pull the latest cards, which leads us into point number 9, which is hold the booster box or hold off buying the booster boxes. There's no hard and fast rule around it, but the general sort of equation is somewhere around that 4-month mark, because generally after 4 months, you'll have the next set coming out. And sometimes it's not always 4 months. Like look at Obsidian Flames, like 151's just around the corner. I don't even think it's probably inside 2 months that Obsidian Flames is getting knocked off by 151. So it's not a hard and fast rule of 4 months, but generally if you hold off on buying booster boxes for around that 3 to 5 month mark, you'll have a new set replacing it, and you'll still generally have a fairly strong supply of the old set on the market, and it's just going to be squashed into the ground a little bit. And here's a clear example up on the screen with Lost Origin. You can see at the 4 month mark, it took a dip. Obviously, we had the next set come out to replace it, and it just hurt it a little bit. So that's probably the best time, or that has been, as you can see on this graph, the best time to buy Lost Origin. Number 10, Japanese 151. And now, actually, I'll get to that in a second. Japanese in general is just growing in popularity. And if something's growing in popularity, we say it in the car industry, if it's popular new, it's going to be popular secondhand. So anything Japanese at the moment, like the popularity from the English population, whether it's down here in Australia or in the US or in Europe, there just seems to be this demand for Japanese Pokemon cards. So, hey, tip number 10, buy yourself up some Japanese sets. V-Star Universe. Look at EV Heroes. If we could get our hands on that 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we'd be laughing. Tip number 11, look for good fundamentals in a set. Does it have good, strong chase cards? Are they popular Pokemon? Are there a heap of sort of those ancillary cards north of $10, which you can also see some growth happening in? Does the box art and the Elite Trainer box art look good? Is it a set that streamers are going to want to rip open in the future? Is there hype around it when it's launched? All these things sort of add to the fundamentals of a good set. And if there's those fundamentals for a good set when it's launched, it's going to mean good value in the long term for that set. So look for good fundamentals when you're buying into a set as an investment. Number 12, buy Sword and Shield now before it's too late. I can remember back when Darkness Ablaze was launched, and the latter Sun and Moon sets were still very reasonably priced. A Cosmic Eclipse booster box was somewhere between $350 to $400 Australian, which would have been about $220, $230 US. A Unified Minds booster box was somewhere around $320 Australian, which was probably sitting around $190 US. If we'd bought all of them then, we'd be laughing now. And I can tell you now, a similar thing is going to happen with Sword and Shield. Buy Chilling Reign, buy Astral Radiance, buy Lost Origin, even Silver Tempest. Crown Zenith is supposed to be getting another reprint. Buy it. These things are going to be cheap, and they're not going to remain cheap for too much longer. What are we up to? We must be up to number 13. Buy Japanese 151 while you can. I think there's another wave of this coming out. If it drops prices, buy it. It is such a phenomenal set. And the fact that I just want to really, really rip my box open when I don't get that feeling for many other boxes at all just shows how special the artwork and the cards are in that set. It is arguably the best Pokemon card set in a long, long time. Buy it. That's tip number 13. Number 14, if you can, buy at the dip or when something's on sale. Like we've got Black Friday deals coming up. We've had down here in Australia, I presume you might have had it in the US as well. We've had these sort of Afterpay days or sales on for Afterpay. Like if you buy it through Afterpay, I don't really promote Afterpay, but if you could get it and it makes it a heap cheaper, it's a good time. Another one, if you can buy in bulk and pick up some sort of deal, quite often websites or even eBay stores will give you a pretty big discount per booster box if you buy multiples, which is obviously going to bring your cost per box down, your average down. So that's a good tip. And then number 15, which coincides with number 14, sell when the market is hot. So if you're buying at the dip or buying at the cheapest, sell when the market's at its hottest. So what are we talking? You know, maybe there's some new game that's come out which has caused a new influx into the market. Maybe it's the 30th anniversary in what are we up to, 3 years' time? The 30th anniversary comes out and there's just new demand for the Pokemon card trading card game. So, you know, you've got to buy when low and sell when hot. If you've made the profits that you've wanted to make, if things have advanced as much and gone up in value as much as you wanted them to, sell when it's hot. You don't know how long a market's going to stay hot for. So, you know, lock away your profits, so to speak. Well, that sums it up. That's our 15 tips. Thanks again, everyone, for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Ta.